Alrighty everybody, in this instructional video here I will show you how to make a paramiter alarm. Somebody had said that in a comment earlier, and I said, well yeah, that's what these were made for. They give off a loud concussion like a shotgun shot. They would be very confusing to people that are coming without your knowledge. Now I'm going to show you the materials to make one of these. First you're going to need one of these little 12-ounce bottles of pop. Go ahead and put yourself a little pinhole in the cap. I've already done that. And make sure that the inside of the bottle is dry. You're going to need a little piece of paper, just big enough to fit around a roll of pennies, and about 1.5 inches long. Then you're going to need your basic pin. You're going to need a pack of these. This is going to be your best friend. Same thing as JB Weld, liquid steel. You're going to need some rubber bands. These guys will do the trick. You can use any kind of rubber band you want, as long as it goes from the bottom of your bottle to about 6 inches above your bottle, and still has pretty good force to drive something down. A roll of pennies is nice, if you got a roll of pennies, but you don't really need a whole roll, so get yourself about 7 or 8 of them and tape them together in a roll fashion. A nice set of pliers, a little thin plate steel. I took this off of a battery, 9-volt battery. Okay, let's talk about other materials for inside. I make Armstrong's mix. It is this very touch sensitive powder. In fact, just by rolling it around in this plastic tube could cause it to explode. Yeah, we'll just keep it at that. You could lose a hand easily. And with this amount that is in this bottle, we'll get to that in another video. You're going to need some black powder. This is my own homemade black powder. This is very coarse right now. I like to keep it as coarse as possible while it's stored. And I like to keep it a little bit wet too, for safety reasons. Safety is number one. Step 1. Grab your bottle. Take off the cap. Once you have the hole in it, then you can move forward. Take your pin, and here's a piece of the puzzle that I didn't explain, and there's a reason why. It's because you're not going to find these laying around your house. You might have to make these out of steel. I mean, what this is because I'm a tattoo artist as well, is it's a used tattoo needle. The needle is removed off the end, and it gives me this perfect little bar. And it already has the loop in the end for me and everything. So that's why I use these. Yes, I reuse my tattoo needles. In another way. But anyway, what you want to do is take your pin and cut it down to where about that much of your needle is sticking out. Once you have that finished, you can set that to the side. Remember the piece of paper? Grab your piece of paper and go ahead and put your roll of pennies inside the paper and roll it up. You don't necessarily have to do this in this order, but it's going to make it a little bit easier if you have everything done up ahead of time before you get to the step. Okay, once you have that taped up on the bottom, push your roll of pennies out, put your roll of pennies to the side. You're no longer going to need them. And there's a reason why you do this to the size of a roll of pennies. It's because it'll fit perfectly inside your bottle. Next, you're going to need another little scrap of paper the size of a tube, just long enough to cover in there, right inside of here. Because what you're going to do is you're going to roll this tube up to fit your pen. You want to leave that edge of your pen sticking out. See how I got that there? And then once you have that completed, then you're going to tape together that. Take a pea-size amount of Armstrong's mix and put it inside of here. Once you have that completed, you're going to cut yourself out a little square of this tin. Once you have your little piece of square tin cut out, that's when you take your Armstrongs mix. Be very careful and very gentle in this process, because this stuff will explode without being confined. What it actually does is it burns faster than the speed of sound. So that's why it is so, it's powerful. Like if you got it open and it explodes, it's fine. The second you try to confine this material is when you start getting into the trouble, because it is so super sensitive. Once you have your powder inside of your piece of paper, you don't want it to go past inside the pin. You just keep it inside that little piece of paper for now. But once it's in there, take your metal piece that you cut, and set down your pin for now, because you're going to need about 4 little pieces of tape. Go ahead and put them on 4 sides, all 4 sides of your little piece of metal, like so. See how I did that? Once you have it together like that, pick up your pen carefully and place your piece of metal right over the hole. Make sure you tape that piece of paper to the pen once you get it set in the right area. It's very important that that stays there at all times, especially whenever you go to try to trigger this thing. Once you have it all there, tape down that metal to the paper. It's important that you use the paper because the powder will be strong enough to blow out the plastic pen, but you want to make sure that it's going to be strong enough to blow out. So what you do is you just use that piece of paper in there and a plate down below it for that pin to strike. And yes, just that pressure alone from that pin striking that plate will set off this powder. Once you have all your tape down, go ahead and tape it up good, like this. If you have a little open hole at the bottom, perfect. Keep that there. Whatever you do, don't shake this around and lose all your powder out of it. This piece is made, and this is the detonator. Now for the roll of pennies. Go ahead and make a bottom. Like that. Make a bottom. In order to do that, you'll take 4 more little pieces of tape. And put them on your tube in a square fashion, just to where they're sticking out. And bend them down. Stick your bottom on. And if you did it right, this is what you'll be left with. You can go ahead and trim the excess. Don't trim too close to the edges, because you don't want all your tape gone. You want to keep that bottom held. So you'll have something that looks kind of like that. I would apply a small amount of JB Weld to the bottom of this plate and then stick it down inside of this, and that will hold it in. You take your black powder or whatever type of powder that you're going to use for this purpose. I'm also going to go ahead and use what I have laying around. This is a black powder that I have made. It's very coarse. And then you're going to fill about half the tube up with powder. Remember, powder of your choice. Does not matter what it is, it will work. You can even use gunpowder from spent shotgun, or from a shotgun shell. You can use gunpowder. That would actually be my first choice. But we all know how prized shells are. And to get that kind of powder out of a shell would be defeating the purpose here. Because what I have done is made my powder. That keeps me from having to take apart things that I may need in the future. Once you have that done up like that, go ahead and tape it off up top. Make sure you're taping the paper to the tube. And there I have it. If you want, you can reinforce the bottom of that with more tape, just to make sure it holds. You don't want anything coming apart. If you lose your powder out the bottom of that, your device will not work. Okay, once you have that done up, that is finished. See this top cap right here? I don't need that on there. I lied to you guys. However, you can get that top piece off of there and melt the tip of your cap. Make sure you're keeping your flame definitely far away from your powder source. But once you got the tip of the cap melted, blow it out and stick it right in the middle of that hole that you created in your cap. Once you have that done, you may want to reinforce that with some of your JB Weld. That's where that comes in handy. JB Weld that up in there. That way it'll stay and you won't have a plastic break. But mine, I don't care. This is for demonstration purposes. Bam. Once you have that finished, you may put it inside of your bottle. And be careful, because the little lip on the bottom is going to be too big. So just kind of feed that down in there. See how it just fits in there, and it's perfect. Do not screw on the cap until you are ready to use it. And that's by screwing on the cap. See what you're doing? This bottle itself is what's going to be expanding and popping to make the noise. See, I don't use an explosive here to make noise. I use the burning of the powder that creates, well, what it does is small space, confined. You guys know what powder does. It pushes a bullet out of a gun. It blows things up. And, well, anyway. So don't screw your cap on until you're ready to use it. Next, you're going to take your pin, your detonator pin, and you're going to attach a rubber band to it like so. Put the rubber band in, put it through itself, pull tight. There you go, you got that done. If your rubber band is long enough, then you can just use one, but I have to use two in order for this to work, so you gotta pull another one through this band, like that, and there we go. I have two rubber bands. As long as your rubber band comes down to about right there, the bottom of your pin, without having to pull too hard, you're good to go. Next, you place the pin inside of your hole that you have made in the top of the cap. Make sure that your pin slides freely through that hole. If your pin doesn't slide freely, like mine isn't right now, you need to make sure that you make that hole a little bit wider. There's your trigger mechanism and everything right there set up. That is all set. The next thing that I use is another one of my tattoo needles. And what you'll do is you'll pull this rubber band to the bottom of the bottle and attach it to the bottom. You just put it around the bottom of the bottle. And then you'll pull this up. And what you do is you secure your bottle to wherever you're going to be leaving this, to a tree or whatever, it doesn't matter. Just secure it to something. And then you'll also need to secure this, your pull string, your tripwire. You'll secure it to something as well with a few staples, as long as it's able to pull freely. And then you pull this up, your rubber band will be in place, it'll have tension against it, and then you know what happens from there. Once this pin is pulled, the rubber bands will cause the pin in the bottle to fly down into the powder, causing it to ignite the powder that is inside, wrapped around the pin, thus causing the bottle itself to pop. And there you have it. I have showed you how to make a basic parameter warning device.